Thanks for tuning in. Love to share my experience that I had with one of my best friends. We hit 6 countries in 14 days, and it was a shit show, but in a good way. Um, I have so many stories. It was a once in a lifetime. I'm gonna break down every little thing and really. Oh, wait! Before we get to why we're hitchhiking in Munich, sorry. Let me get back. Okay, all right. That's just the beginning. All right, so let me break down some of the basics. I'm going to ramble on a little bit in case anybody's looking to do this long journey. So, to go over the places that we actually went within the country, the states within the country. So, we hit Amsterdam, Dublin, Paris, Barcelona, Rome, into Munich. We spent 2 days in each place with like 1 or 2 extra days on Amsterdam on the way back through. I'm coming from Florida. He's coming from Pittsburgh. We've been friends since we were 5 years old. At about 10 years ago, I moved to Florida. So now that we don't get to see each other very much, we still try to make trips. This has been a trip in the making for the past 5, 6 years. Every time we have attempted it, something happened, whether it was COVID or the Ukraine and the Russia going on, so it wasn't very safe, and we just had to pull the trigger on it. He's been watching pricing and everything else in the flights because the flights are one of the most expensive thing. So to give you a grand idea, I think all in all, I spent about $4,000 between flights, hostels, food, and really beer. So realistically, hostels and flights alone were $1,500 each of us. So that was already a nice chunk. Thankfully, the hostels are only like 20, $30 a night per person, and some of them weren't bad, as I'll show you. So I don't have video for everything. I'm not very I'm very camera shy, and you wouldn't be able to tell as I have a YouTube channel. But I don't know, in the moment, I was just living in the moment. A lot of people would say that I'm the wild card. I get a little crazy. And I look at my friend as the real wild card. So when you put us both together, it is just chaotic. People were worried. They asked me, like, were you worried that you were going to get captured? Did you ever watch the movie Hostel? And now looking back after the whole trip, I think they were worried about us. We were the biggest problem of them all. So I could definitely hear them saying, damn Americans, pretty frequently. So we were definitely living our best lives over there. We did put ourselves in some sketchy situations where if it was the Hostel movie, we would 100% fell for it. We went off on all sorts of little journeys, places we shouldn't have. The only positive thing is we did drink a lot. So I'd like to start by saying I do not condone heavy drinking or drugs or anything like that for anybody. But I'm going to share what we went through. I'm not saying it's something good. I'm not proud of myself, but I want to share my experience. So I'm going to show you all the different photos, kind of talk behind the scenes, just really showcase, what was there, the experiences we had. It was one of the most, I will never forget that trip in my life. And we already plan to do another trip here in about 2 years, do an Asia trip. So I highly recommend this trip for everybody. Like I said, about $4,000. Granted, we spent about $1,500 in straight alcohol, so that was a bit much because it is pricey when you're going to all the bars and the different things. So if you're not about that life, you'll save a lot of money. But other than that, work was not happy. They only like people to take off, 7 days max. I took 14. Then my flights got delayed on the way back because of the hurricane, so I was gone 17 days. They were not thrilled about that. So thankfully I still have my job. So I think in the best part, I think we were 6 days in and my buddy's like, yeah, still haven't told them I took off. I said, where the hell do they think you're at? He's like, I don't know. I just keep sending reports every once in a while. So you will understand as you start to see a little bit that he's the true character of this whole show. And I was happy to be along the journey. He brings me out of being shy and just having a blast and just really living life to the fullest. So shout out to my man Boudet. Going down memory lane, this is the Hostel Clink. This is in Amsterdam. Amsterdam is an unreal place. It is nothing like anywhere else I've ever been. I've been to Vegas, and this is Vegas on roids. Whole nother world. Beautiful hostel for about $30 a night. They had all sorts of different activities that I'll show you here, and I got tons of fun stories that all turned in from this place as far as this goes. So the hostels, you can find very nice places. As you see, this place had like an indoor garden. They had ping pong. They had every single board game. In the other room, I didn't show it, but they had all sorts of like card games and karaoke night. And below is an entire arcade, and there's a bar that I'm pretty sure never turns off. It's going 24/7. They got a fridge that you can buy beer at all times. So just complete chaos. And it was an amazing place to stay. So if you're ever in Amsterdam, check out Clink. The only downside is you have to take the ferry over to the main Amsterdam area. But the ferry is free, so it's a little bit of inconvenience, not a big deal. And everybody travels by bikes over there, as you'll see in one of my other photos as far as that goes. This is right outside here, so it's, just as you would think. You got just little boats going through here. You got buildings on each side. Thousands and thousands of restaurants and stores of all sorts of types. It's really the Wild West, though. So once you get down into the red light district, where they're selling marijuana and shrooms and prostitution's legal and all sorts of craziness, you go from this to complete chaos. Meanwhile, there's little kids and parents walking around like it's normal, which just completely blew my mind. Some of the sights and the just overall views over here was astonishing. So as you'll see in this next photo here, this is when you first walk into the main area of Amsterdam, coming up over just dead ahead there. You go into all of the different stores. Like I said, thousands and thousands of stores. It was unreal how many they were able to pack in. The streets are super narrow. There's very limited cars. Everybody is on either like little scooters or bicycles. The only cars you ever see are like half the size of a smart car, which doesn't even make sense how that's possible. But yeah, super tiny. And it's a whole different living compared to the US. So this is the narrow little streets. That's my buddy Boudet here. He's the main character of this whole show. And you'll see here in a little bit. But all of these different stores are, like literally all the little streets are like that. You walk down, and on every side, it could be anywhere from a restaurant to a head shop to it's completely random from one to another. I didn't capture the place. This was actually probably about a half an hour after I met him. A funny but dumb story. I didn't even want to tell it, but there's no way I can't tell it. So we actually met. So like I said, he's flying from Pittsburgh. I'm flying from Florida. He told me to meet in this famous head shop area where upstairs they used to have this little chute where downstairs they would sell marijuana, and they would, like, I think it was in Orange, they would roll down this like chute, and if that happened, the people down below knew the cops were above and to hide it back when it was illegal. So he told me to meet him there. So we're fly across the world. We're about to see each other. I know he's on his way. I head into this place. I go downstairs. I don't smoke or do anything of that sort. Not saying he might or might not. I don't know. You'll see. But for me, the whole thing was full of smoke. And it was so dense. I was trying to find my way out of it. And yeah, I blacked out. I passed out. I literally wake up to seeing him for the first time. I haven't seen him in like 3 years prior to this. It's him picking me up saying, "What are you doing?" I walk 10 feet. I pass out again into someone. So I completely fall right into the person, apparently. The second time, as I like totally don't know what's going on. So yeah, I guess I got like contact something. I don't know. It was super embarrassing, and it was just hilarious because this is the first time I've seen him in a while, and here I am on the ground, and he picks me up, and I'm like, oh, and that's how we started the first 5 minutes of being there, is me passing out. So yeah, what a great start. I'll tell you what. Everywhere we went, we tried to find some high restaurant to eat in. and really just to soak in all of the views that it had to offer. So you'll see there's a ton of restaurants and different things that we got into where we're eating up above the entire city itself. And things start to escalate. So this was the bikes I was telling you about. Like I said, it is insane how many people are traveling on bikes. That is just the way of the world over there. We didn't really get bikes because I don't know, we were drinking all day. I was kind of worried about getting a DUI. So I was relying on the old legs to get me around. So yeah, so crazy night the first night there. Woo! I know I don't have much context for that, but to tell you exactly what ended up happening there is, yeah. So my buddy, first night we go out drinking all night long. We go out drinking all night long, and just of course this is the only guy. So the entire time we're fighting whether our phones are dying from batteries because we're out and about all day long. Eventually I bought like a battery charger thing to be able to go on the fly. But my guy, after a crazy night, leaves his phone in the Uber ride. So the Uber ride that's taken us back to the place leaves it in the guy's car. After an hour later of us in the hostel, he's like, "Hey, I don't have my phone." Like, you can't just not have a phone. It's day one. We're within 5 hours of being here. Like, if we got split up, like, how would we find each other? So, like, I was like, all right, well, we got to figure this out. He chalked it off as like, I don't need a phone. I was a little bit more concerned. So we called the Uber driver, but meanwhile, we hit the ground running pretty hard. So for whatever reason, the guy seemed like he was acting shady, and that he was like trying to get money off us to bring the phone back. And my buddy freaked out because I don't know, he thought he was trying to scam us. Both of us didn't know what the hell was going on. So we ended up just going to sleep, or so I thought. So I thought we were going to sleep, but that he had something else in mind, because I went to bed. And like I said, there was a bar going underneath our hostel at all times. It's 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. But this place is like Vegas. It does not shut down. Well, come 6 a.m., I get someone wiggling my toe, just my big old toe, while I'm trying to sleep in my bed. And it's the security guard of the place. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to need you to go get your buddy down there. He's causing a ruckus." I'm like, oh my God. We literally are about to be kicked out of our place. I go down. For whatever reason, you're going to see, he does not like to wear shirts. So he's shirtless, and hitting on all the people, guys, girls, like not in a serious way, just mingling, having a good time. He just loves to be, like, I wouldn't say center of attention, but loves to have a great time and meet everybody. So it was just so funny that within hours we lost the phone, and the security guard's about to kick us out of this place already. So we chalk off, hey, we're probably not going to have a phone, and it is what it is. I finally convinced him to get back to the room. He's not even in there for about 5 minutes, and he goes, no, 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 and then just gets up, storms out, and goes right back to the party. So yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time, I'll tell you what. So yeah, anyways, that second video that showed that guy pulling up, that was actually the Uber driver the next day. We were able to get a hold of him, and he said that he came back to the hostel and was trying to give us the phone, but the people wouldn't hold the phone without our name, and he didn't know our name or something. He was actually a great guy. I think we gave him like $80 for like actually being awesome and really trying. So it turns out we were really the ones being the assholes, and he was just a kind guy trying to help. But yeah, this is how we pretty much started the next day. So every day we were maximizing our time. We had very limited time, 2 days in each place we were at. So you had to make the best of it. We were but a couple hours of being awake. We started with mimosas and all sorts of other stuff. And already it was getting sloppy quick. And sure enough, leave it to my buddy. He it's legal. It's legal. And that's how he started his morning. And I can't say nothing. So, yeah, living his best life right outside the hostel. Funny story, 2 people actually showed up and joined him. I wish I could freeze that a little better as far as what it looks like. So this guy with the train, I can't even think of whatever the thing is, the train hat on. So he challenged my buddy to like a dance off out of nowhere. So this is literally, we are 3 hours in, 4 hours into the day. We go back downtown and we're about to, go hard again. We run into this random bar, runs into this guy, and this guy challenges him to a dance off. So for whatever reason, my buddy, and it cuts off the clip because it was crazy. Actually, sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. My buddy thought he wanted to have a dance off, but the guy actually wanted to have a slap boxing contest. So he put his hands behind his back and was like, slap me. And my buddy thought it was a dance off. So he said, hold my legs. He did a handstand, thought the guy was going to hold his legs. His legs fell over, hit that table, beer went everywhere. And yeah, we left, and the lady down below was like, oh my God, you guys were here for less than 5 minutes. I thought the place was going to come down. So yeah, that was a great time. I tell you what there. So this is actually on red light district here. So behind, you see some of the red doors in the far left corner. You're not allowed to ever take photos or anything. They have signs that you could get arrested, which is hilarious. And sure enough, I don't have it, but he took a photo before we seen the signs. They came running out. There was like, we were in a valley, and like 4 of them came running out and started throwing jugs of water on him. And he thought it was hilarious and didn't realize what it was. But this place is iconic here. So this is the only bar that we found that you could actually sit on this cool little ledge that was overhanging the main part of the red light district. So what we actually did is we turned it into like a gambling game. So we got everybody in the entire bar invested. What we would do is we would wait for people to walk in, the John to walk in, and we would bet on how long they would make it. And the closest person would win, and everybody had to like buy that person a drink. So it could be 5-10 minutes, how long they were going to last, you get it. And it was so funny that we turned this random night into like this gambling thing. We ended up, as you see, we got all sorts of free beers because we were guessing pretty well. These people didn't know. We had a ringer. We hired some guy from the outside that was going in. No, I'm just kidding. But it was hilarious. And there were so many people that were going in there. So very common. And it was quite hilarious. So after we escaped Amsterdam, this is our hostel, the out view in Barcelona. So Barcelona was probably my 3rd favorite, with Amsterdam being my favorite, spoiler alert. So this little cool little area where down below you were able to get food. The food was called tapa, which was amazing. You could pick from, all sorts of different things. This one was, you got to pick 6 different plates. And in this town square, you'll see all sorts of people. There was performers like that going in that town square at all times. The second night, there was an entire band. There was tons of boats in town because the Louis Vuitton boat race was going on at the same time that we were going. So the whole point is we were trying to make our way to Amsterdam for Beer Fest. We've been training. The Americans were going to take on the Germans, which would have never worked. But yeah, if you ever seen the movie, great movie. And we both ended up somehow watching it on our flight there. So we were mentally ready. But this next part is we met a random guy that showed us an awesome magic trick. Very shady.
How many? What's that? 6 twos? I'm just kidding. Look, seems to be good to me. There you go, bro. Sure. Check it. You mix it. I did. Remember. Okay. Put it on the top. This is your cup. Yeah. Okay. I'm not gonna do nothing. You can mix it.
Okay.
Nee, leider nicht. Ich versuche halt meine alten Daten irgendwie so gut wie möglich wieder zurückzubringen. Aber ich kann sie mal, ich finde meine IP-Adresse nicht.
Kommt ist jetzt.
Are you?
Okay.
Ja, dann weißt du diese Mail und dann kannst du eigentlich fix so, wenn du ein Passwort vergessen
You
hast,
mix the cards.
dann
You
kannst
choose
du
one,
einfach
you
eine
remix
Mail-
it, I do nothing.
Right.
Kannst
It's
du
like
neue
we're on the
Nummern
same page.
Das geht aber
Me and
erst
you.
auf SMS von meinem alten Handy. Ja, das ist eben das Problem. Irgendwie kriege ich
What time is it?
I don't even know what day it is, man.
Ja,
No, because it's a match of Barcelona tonight.
Oh.
Yeah, they play against Monaco for the Champions League. So, give me your two hands. What is this?
6.
6. Okay, we put this and you
Das
close.
weiß jetzt, das
And
heißt jetzt.
you just have to do 1, 2, 3. Do this. Do this.
Da hat er gerade die Karte ausgetauscht.
If you see.
I see. I see. I see.
Got him.
Good job.
This is about the extent of me taking any photos. Like I said, not very photogenic. The beach, though, was absolutely amazing. We ended up hanging out on one of the bunkers there, and some random guy that was walking by he sold us some mixed drinks. He had an entire liquor bottle and whatnot. I ended up negotiating with him, and I bought the whole bottle and everything he had for like $15. He was a terrible negotiator. He was selling it at $5 a glass. I got the entire bottle for $15. I don't know. Maybe he was just over the day. But yes, amazing views. The water was fabulous. This area was actually a nude part of, it could be completely nude. I did not see anybody that was nude besides my buddy. He was the only one that went nude. I did not put this in there, so you guys are welcome. But it was quite funny as far as that goes. So we were just, like I said, being weirdos, taking photos at anywhere at the highest points that we can. This is actually Park Guell, which was a famous park. And the funny part about this park is we actually bought the tickets, and there's no Wi-Fi up on this hill. So we ended up jumping over the fence, which was actually a really good fence. It was not like your standard fence. It was difficult. We had to climb a tree to jump over, even though we had tickets. And everybody on the inside was cheering for us as we jumped the fence. So it was eventful, but yes, it was just extravagant. So apparently this guy, really handcrafted everything. And as you'll see as we go through all these, my buddy always seems to end up in places you're not supposed to be. So if it's roped off, he basically looks at it as it's a competition. And we were the Americans that were being the problem. But overall, this park was fabulous. There was a performer up there. As you see, he has a gathering of birds. All birds just seem to flock to this guy. Such a random thing. I tell you what. Look at that view, overseeing the entire town of Barcelona. Just really outstanding place. This is the actual icon or the symbol of the Park Guell. That's the famous part. So you can't even touch it. There's literally, you can't see, there's a guard to the left. There's guards all over to make sure no one even touches that thing. And I actually came out of this place. I ate at this little restaurant just as you leave this place, right outside. It was a nice looking place. So I didn't think anything of it. But sure enough, I got food poisoning. And it was terrible. So for the next 48 hours, I couldn't drink anymore. I couldn't eat any other food. I couldn't sleep. It was just horrendous, which compounded so much worse when we got back to the place. So as you see, I just want to show this random thing before I go back to that tangent. But that's the first time I've ever seen, it was like a motorized, I don't even know, shuttle for your car. It was like a car carrier. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. So yeah, this is what the hostel looked like when we got back. They were setting up for a full concert. Meanwhile, I have food poisoning. Every time, basically what the rule of thumb was, is you would drink hard the first day once we land, knowing that we would have to be taking a flight the next day. So you couldn't really drink very heavy the second day because we had to take a flight out, or at least one of us wasn't able to drink heavy. So one of us had to be in our mind at all times the second day. And yeah, this was just horrible. So I'm rocking back and forth, throwing up, trying to sleep. Meanwhile, they have an entire concert going on, fireworks going off. There was no sleep. I ended up going like almost 2.5 days without sleep. I was starting to get delirious. I just couldn't. It was the worst experience I've had in that sense. And I was having an epic time up to this. So if you ever go to Barcelona, you do want to stay on the main pathways. So there's like a main drag. I didn't take a photo of it, but you don't want to veer off down some random streets. It does get a little sketchy in some areas, but as long as you're on the main pathway, tons of cops. No one cares that you're drinking or having a good time. But there's all sorts of people like trying to sell stuff. Like they have like blankets out and they're trying to sell stuff and the police are chasing them. So it's a wild time. But yeah, they had fireworks going off in this damn thing. Right below our hostel was a 24-hour Latino dance bar, which my buddy ended up at. But I couldn't do nothing. I could barely even think because I was so sick. Just trying to get some water down. So the next up spot that we ended up going to was Dublin. Dublin had a very nice hostel. It's like $20 a night. They had all the different amenities as well. The ping pong tables. They had free breakfast below. They had a bar that was pretty much going at all times. A little shuffleboard. Lots of cool stuff at this hostel. I believe this one was one of the more popular hostels. I can't think of the actual, I think it was a Generator, so which is a popular one. They're all over the United States. They're not as nice. I prefer the off-brand ones, as I feel like for the same amount of money, you get even more. The Generators, like, you know, they charge you for shampoo and towels and different things of that. That's how they get you, even though it's cheap. But of course, while we were in Dublin, you have to hit the Guinness Brewery. Guinness Brewery was probably 10 minutes away from our place. It kind of reminded me like walking around like Pittsburgh, like how all the buildings were. It was pretty wild.
The hell, you're down to Florida, but you can't take me nowhere.
Yeah, bro. This is the observatory.
Before I move on to this current photo of the football game that we found, obviously we're from Pittsburgh, so the Steelers, we had to find a game. But before that, so the top spot, that was the observatory at the Guinness place. And that random photo of my buddy chasing a bird around, that was happening all the time. He was determined to catch one of those birds. I think he was 0 in 100 tries. So it was quite funny. But at this bar, you'd be shocked. So soccer game going below. They're complete chaos. They're having a field day, throwing beer bottles, so loud, going nuts. We're upstairs. We're watching the Steelers game. Me, him, we met some other Steelers people. We're watching it. And he cheers for like a big catch, almost a touchdown or something. And these old guys in the back were just trying to start a fight. They tell him to sit the F down and shut up. And yeah, he doesn't take kindly to those type of words. So then he became even louder. And eventually the guy said it again. He goes over and pokes the guy in the belly and said, "Hey, let's go talk outside." And of course, we get kicked out because he touched the guy. Meanwhile, this guy started it essentially. Yeah, super dumb. It was the fourth quarter when we got kicked out, so we didn't even get to see how the game ended up. It was quite annoying in that sense. The next day, though, so we ended up going to the Dublin Castle, where it was just immaculate. This castle was insane with all it had to offer as far as that goes. And I actually have a funny story that the guy told me on the one painting part. So you got the king's big old chair there, and then you look at this art piece up on the ceiling. So what makes this art piece so amazing is her. I mean, yeah, it's pretty badass in general, but apparently the painter took 15 years to paint it. He had to paint it on his back. And what was crazy, like the guy was saying, telling us the story, he goes, and this was after the tour and everything, because we were just randomly asking about it. And so apparently that guy was just a character in general. So while he was there, that guy was also known for, he got invited to someone's wedding, some random person's wedding. He goes to the wedding. The guy doesn't show up and leaves the woman at the altar. And then he literally goes up and marries the woman on the spot, not knowing her at all. And they were married to that day for like 30, 40 years. So just such a wild guy to just randomly go to someone's wedding and then end up marrying the person and staying with them. So I thought that was a hell of a random story and turnout of everything. So this is downtown in Dublin, just going right across from the Heineken Tower. Overall was just... Dublin was nice. It wasn't nothing like Amsterdam or Barcelona. Those two hands down are better. I personally probably wouldn't go to Dublin again. It was nice just to see the Guinness Brewery and the Dublin Castle. And there was all kind of cheap trains that's how you got around there. You took trains everywhere as far as that goes. So up next, Paris. Paris was a hell of a time. I think we're working on about 2 hours of sleep in this photo. It was getting a little sloppy. They're obviously known for their croissants, their little coffees. So we're at some random place right outside our hostel. I totally forgot to even take a picture of our hostel. It was pretty nice. It wasn't anything crazy. And yeah, you see a challenge? I said, I bet you couldn't climb that. He said, not sure why, but here we go. Can he make it on this random dome? He did. Fucking A. Like why? Yeah, pretty much any opportunity for him to climb something that was not allowed to be climbed, he sure made it a fucking mission, I tell you what. And of course, we hit the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower we almost missed because by the time we landed, we had very little time to actually get to where we were to be picked up for the Eiffel Tower. So bad that when we showed up, the tour guide and everything already left. And the person's like, oh yeah, they're a couple blocks away. So we're in full sprint and we catch up to the tour. Thankfully, because we already paid and it's non-refundable. And we had the Mac Daddy course as far as that goes. So our ticket actually gave us access to the very, very tippy top of the Eiffel Tower, which is not for all of them. And some of the tickets you actually had to walk it. We got an elevator. So it was great. The views were just insane. You are so high up there. It is unreal. The amount of distance and the architecture and just everything you can see. It was just amazing to be able to see the sights. There's all sorts of crazy buildings in downtown Paris. And overall, Paris, like I said, was probably the only place where when you go outside of the main city, it got a little sketchy. That's the only place I felt like a little unsafe. Thankfully, we're traveling as two guys, and if anything, people were more worried about us than we should be worried about them. So yeah, but if you were two females, not being sexist, but I would be careful, because it got really sketchy in some of the areas we went to off of Paris, because we were walking all through the different downtowns off the beaten path, just checking out all these different artworks and everything else as far as that goes. I don't have the one picture of the main road, but Louis Vuitton and all of the famous brands are on one road, one golden road. Ferraris, Lamborghinis, everything. You can't even walk into the actual Louis Vuitton. There's bodyguards outside. That time we tried to enter the building and they just said, no, you can't come in. Granted, we were in shorts. Like, we didn't look like we could buy a $30,000 purse. So it is what it is. But yeah, they're not just going to let random people walk around in these expensive places, because these are the most legit stuff. Of course, you can't go to Paris without seeing the famous art museum, the Vogue. The craziest artwork in here. It's known for having the iconic Mona Lisa. And there's just so much artwork in there. It took a couple hours to get in, and a lot of the money we spent along the way was going to these famous things. They weren't cheap. I mean, I think that was $50-$60 to actually get into those areas. And yeah, we were just having a good old time. I could have definitely chose some better clothing choices for being over there. We were living out of a book bag, so that's all we had, is one book bag, each of us, to make it all 14 days. Obviously, we had to wash clothes while we were there. My buddy was having a little bit of fun with this this little statue here. And there it is, the famous Mona Lisa. So the Mona Lisa, you couldn't even get close to that. There was bodyguards, tons of long lines to actually get there. Oh, hello. Of course, my buddy could not resist taking his shirt off and having a good old time as we were leaving the place. And I just forgot to put that part in. But of course, you got the crown jewels. That's another big part of the Vogue that everybody loves to go see, along with the Mona Lisa. That the ceilings are just insane. Like, it's breathtaking to go from room to room and have all of this artwork. It was stunning, I tell you what. That was one of the famous statues right outside the main area of Paris. Just to see these massive statues, how they built them, it's just unreal to think that's how it was back in the day when they first built up all of these areas. One of the side streets we took down, we took one too many left turns. And I don't even know, this was some head of something. And a bunch of the places would actually sell this. It was quite disgusting. And of course, the Hells Angels have a Paris location as far as that goes. We almost got patched up and never came back, but we decided we'll go back another day. Paris is definitely a place I'd probably go again. I probably wouldn't do the Eiffel Tower and everything again. And this is one of the other Paris's. This is their big. So when we were on the Eiffel Tower, they kept talking about this place. This was the biggest church. It was so far. It's like, I think walking wise took us like 2.5 hours to get there from where we were. But the views and being up over everything was just crazy as far as that goes. You can't really see in the back, but there's a fence with a ton of locks, millions upon millions of locks that people write their name on. But yeah, the views were just absolutely crazy. And getting to this church, though, is where it got a little sketchy. Even during the day, you get to some tough areas that you wouldn't want to be alone. We had people try to approach us, but we just kept walking by, acting like we didn't understand them. Overall, language-wise, I forgot to mention, it's not bad. So everywhere we went, there's always a good bit of people that can speak just English. It might be broken English, but they could understand us and be able to help us along the way. So that helped out a ton. Paris was the only place that was a little bit more difficult to fully understand everybody. Not too bad. Rome was difficult, but we used like Google Translate when we could. But you could always, I would say about 66% of people. So if you asked the question, someone around would help answer and kind of jump in to, get you to where you had to go. Everybody was super friendly and super helpful. So one of the main places my buddy wanted to see is Supreme. So I ended up picking up a nice shirt that you'll see in some of the photos, the black Supreme shirt. But this is one of their main offices, so we couldn't pass up not going to check it out. And it's crazy. They had a lot of different cool artwork shirts that you can't find online and you can only buy there. So we couldn't pass up actually going to check out what they got. I ended up getting, like I said, I got something. He ended up not getting any.
Say, Tiffany, I cook for you.
Hey! Oh, sorry. sorry. I'm always loud. Sorry. Everybody, but here we still love. My friend Lorenzo is from Colombia, and he's one of the biggest guitarists that.
Oh, so he's the penny dropper, dude. Where are you gonna take him to get laid? Because he's the guy.
Listen. Feel it.
I do. Baby.
So there's so many words that go into those two videos. So the first video with my buddy carrying all the beer. Okay, let me address that one first. That all started, that night was going, we were perfectly fine. We were sightseeing all day long, just having a field day in Paris, just enjoying life. And then we went to this one bar, and we were kind of wrapping our day up, heading home. And we ran into this guy because my buddy was being loud as a normal American. And the guy, for whatever reason, loved him. Went over, started talking to us, and we find out that he's the owner of this bar because it's like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So everything's shutting down. We weren't ready to go back yet. We were just getting warmed up. And so this guy, he's like, hey, I got to shut this place down, but I have another bar that we're going to go to. So we end up following this guy to the middle of nowhere in Paris, off all the main beaten paths. Like I said, this is not something I recommend to do. And sure enough, we later find out he was like, I don't know, he was like part of the Mafia. I hope he doesn't find me for posting this, but part of like the dang Mafia for Paris. It was wild because he had a bodyguard with him at all times that wouldn't let us get close to him. And actually, I don't even think we even got a photo of the guy because they were very weird about cameras around him. But yeah, there was a bodyguard with him. And for whatever reason, he just absolutely loved the energy of my friend. So he took us to another bar that he owned that's where he ended up spilling all of the drinks on this Mafia guy. Like it cut out after when he set those beers down, they all fell onto the Mafia guy's outfit and soaked him. And everybody was like, the whole place got dead silent. The guy forgave him, and we were drinking with them all night. We probably drank 3-4 hours. Everything was free. He was trying to take us to do all sorts of crazy stuff. He was like, come back to my place. And I can't even mention some of the stuff that he was offering. And we were like, no. We're just here for the beer and we're going home. Hell of a time. Second part. So after we left that guy, we were so close to our hostel and we run across these performers. So this guy is like, I don't know, some guy trying to make it big. And at this point, it's like 7 a.m. in the morning. Everybody's just been drinking all night long. And so they get into like a little sing off and playing the guitar. Hell of a time. I mean, it just never ended. We went from one chaotic thing to another and just really was living the best of it. Which all leads us to our next trip, Rome. Rome was an interesting place. Like I said, there was some language difficulties. I don't know if I would go back again, but it was a heck of a thing to see at least once. So our hostel was super small, and it wasn't the best. And my buddy almost got in a fight with the main person because we were trying to cook some steaks and the stove wasn't working, and this guy was like kind of talking down to us. It wasn't going well. We almost got kicked out of that place as well. Should I phrase it again? We never got kicked out of anywhere. They told us we were having too much fun and that we should leave. So whatever way you want to word it. But yeah, so we didn't go actually into the Vatican. But just because my buddy has now taken this trip 4 times. I've only done it once. If a flight shows up for $100, he will literally just jump on a plane the next day and take off. He's that type of person. I plan far ahead because it is an expensive trip and I can't just take off work very easy. But this, like, to see some of these artwork, it's in the middle of like you're literally walking down a regular road and then boom, this pops up out of nowhere. So just insane. One of the places we did end up going is we took a trip to Pompeii. So Pompeii, sorry if I get some of their history wrong, but Pompeii was basically an island, or not an island, a place that the volcano erupted and killed everybody. And you'll see some of the fallen people, basically the lava went over them and turned them to hard stone. Funny story, switching subjects. So we didn't pay for one of the tickets because we were unsure of how to do it. It was confusing. The one person told us we could, I don't know. But we jumped on this one train and we take a train there. It's 3 hours to get there. So it's going to eat up our entire day. And this place was fabulous. This train ride we took, they gave you food and beer and all, like a full course meal and all this. I'm like, geez Louise. And we're thinking to ourselves, we got it on here for free. Well, sure enough, there was a ticket person that came around. And they were trying to charge us double because we didn't pay for tickets up front. Just regular price was $150 a piece. So we learned our lesson on the backswing. We took a cheap train that was like $30-$40 a piece. But even worse, we thought, we missed our first one, and then there was another train that said going to Rome. And we're like, it's still going to Rome. What's the worst that could happen? Well, that one actually it took a detour to every single possible other stop. It was 6-hour train ride. It was awful. We literally sat on this train forever. So our entire day was soaked up. We spent a couple hours in Pompeii walking around, checking out all the different places as you're going to see. It was definitely a heck of a place. I couldn't even imagine living here back in the day. Just trying to just really think of troops rolling through here. And, you got people on Trojan horses, and you got the town square where everybody would come fight. It's just insane. And you'll see one of the photos of the actual mountain itself. Just insane.
Come here, man. We came all the way to the Vatican, man. They told us we just can't be saved.
We went to the Colosseum. Our ticket ended up getting canceled 5 times. So he ordered it days before, or like a week before. It got canceled. He ordered again, got canceled. I ordered, canceled. So for 5 different times. The last cancellation, and every time, like, it would take a day, and then it would say, oh, sorry, we overbooked. You'll get your money back. So we ended up not even getting to go in. Our last cancellation was 5 minutes before. We were like, finally, our 5th time, we're gonna make it. And nope, they canceled it. So it stinks. We were right outside it. Still a heck of a view from the outside, and seeing the stuff from Pompeii gives you kind of an idea. But the amount of parks and just scenery, even all around this place as you're walking through, like I said, it's just absolutely stunning. There's so much going on around. It's crazy. So Munich, my favorite one. My favorite place of them all. I would definitely do this one again. So you go through this like little fair area to get to the main things that you're going for. They call them tents, but they're not really tents. They're these massive buildings that look like tents, and each of them have like a different company of beer. But when we first landed, it was already like 7 o'clock at night, and Beer Fest, essentially, Octoberfest as they would call it, closes at 11. So we only had 4 hours. When we were there, though, there was this random girl that was in the hostel who was from like Sweden or something, and asked if she could follow us. So she was traveling alone and didn't want to, like, I don't know, whatever, anybody bother her. And so, yes, let's go. Well, we had no clue how to get there. She ended up leading the entire way to get us there. And thankfully that she did tag along with us. She was just some friendly lady. I don't know. Like she left her husband couldn't come or something like that, so she just made the trip anyways. But thankfully she did take us there, because having the hardest part, if you see this big tent, is when you get to these tents, you can't get close to the stage. There's just so much. Each of those tables, so everybody is standing on the chairs of the tables, and people pay $60-$70 per table in the early days, and they'll guard that thing all day long, so they won't let go of that table, and no one wants to let you up on there. But thankfully, with having that girl, I don't even know her name, we sent her in. She would gain access to a table and then say, hey, I got 2 friends. And then sure enough, it's me and him. And you could see their face like, shit, I thought it was going to be 2 more girls. And then here we are. So yeah, my buddy just having a good old time. The only person in the entire place without the shirt on. Like I said, this was a theme that continued to happen, but the only one that it caused so much chaos that like it drew so much attention to us because of it.
The only one with the unseen Shetland. Okay, let's go.
So after we left there the first day, we really maximized our 4 hours. We went to the Munich Castle. It was one of the castles there. It was just an amazing view overall. Tons of great artwork and everything else. And then they had this really cool like pond walk area that took like 2-3 hours to walk around. Or sorry, it took like an hour to walk around. But we spent a couple hours out there just kind of sobering up from the night before. Because Beer Fest does not open up. So they do like a 12. It's like a 12 to 10 o'clock or something. So this was early in the morning. We're just killing time waiting for Beer Fest to open back up because we're going back for round 2. But of course we started drinking a little bit, which led into some of the other funny photos that you're going to see. My buddy struggling for life. He did a little panhandling. Hey, beers were $20 a piece, okay? What do you want from us? We spent all of our money. We had to find a way to get more beer. So you got to do what you got to do. We did run across some Pokemon World in the downtown of Munich, which was weird. And yes, we made it back to the Beer Fest. This time at Beer Fest, we got even closer. We were probably 3 tables away from the main stage. And my buddy was shocked because the other 3 times he's came to Beer Fest, he's never even got in onto a table, let alone 3-4 tables behind. These people are playing all sorts of music, whether it is, their country music, or they would also play a lot of American music, and everybody just random stuff like Justin Bieber and stuff like that, and the place would go absolutely bonkers. But yeah, those glasses, they're about $20 a beer. And it's what it's known for is when you meet someone, you slam your glass against someone, and that's like cheersing them. As far as that goes. So it's definitely a random thing. It was an absolute blast. In this next photo, so like I said, my buddy, only person with his shirt off, it drew so much attention that the owner of the tent came down from his like office thing to meet my buddy because he was getting so much attention. So random that he meets the owner of the tent for just being just himself. So such a great time. Let me explain this photo, okay? So this is not what you think it is. We thought it was when you first seen what this girl just randomly walked up and said, do you guys want some? We're like, what? So apparently what's really famous in Munich is they have like nicotine sniff. So you sniff it and it's pure nicotine. It's not what you thought it was. But still, I mean, I couldn't trust what the heck it was. She looked like she was out of her mind. I mean, all of us were drinking at this point for 5-6 hours. So yeah, I wasn't about that. Definitely passed on that stuff. And to end the night, we were just a complete mess. I had an absolute amazing time. So we had this outfit the whole time we bought and carried with us, just waiting for this moment to actually be able to rock it. Ours was cheap. It wasn't like the leather ones. But before we left, like all of that was still daytime. That was like 3 p.m. and we were looking that rough. We came out and we rode this ride for $5. It took you so high up in the air. And yeah, like I said, we were running out of money. We had to resort to possibly hitchhiking home. You got to do what you got to do. We ended up walking, but it was an option. And yeah, hell of a trip overall. And like I said, I highly recommend anybody that's thinking about taking this trip, just take it. Save up the money, make the trip. Like I said, Amsterdam was fabulous. I don't care what age you are, what you know, if you're going to dabble in all the other stuff that they offer. It's just crazy to see how many shops, and just everybody's completely different. From transportation to using ferries and bicycles, and Paris is insane. They don't even have lines on the road for like multiple cars. You just drive. So like there is oncoming and regular traffic, but like our Uber driver would zigzag into oncoming traffic. It was just complete chaos. It was just like a free for all of driving. So each different place had its own little thing. Now Dublin was, like I said, more like Pittsburgh. It was like downtown. They're just known for their beer. So if I made the trip again, I might stay longer in Amsterdam, skip out on Dublin, skip out on Rome, skip out on probably Paris the next time around. Those places are great to go the first time, to see the Guinness Brewery, to see the Eiffel Tower, to see the Vogue, the Colosseum, the Spanish Steps. To go to all those different places are awesome to have once in your lifetime. But if I was going to go back, I would definitely go Amsterdam, Barcelona, and Munich again, and do more days into those areas, because they were just insane. As far as that goes, well worth the once in a lifetime trip. I can't wait to do some other trips. Like I said, we got the Asia trip coming up, and I couldn't have asked for a better travel buddy. My best friend, he really made it fun. So, you know, you could go there and be all calm and just sightsee, or you could live life and have a great time. You're not going to get in, like, we didn't get in any trouble. Like, we weren't doing anything that crazy. But just have a fun time, get out of your shell, really enjoy life as far as that. See all the different cultures, the different food. You really just got to experience life. And while leaving, the trip took a side turn, in the sense of I got stuck in the airport for 28 hours. My flights kept getting canceled because there was a hurricane going on in Florida. So this is the bed that I slept on for many, many hours, because they kept promising a new flight. And eventually it was like 12 o'clock at night and they said no more flights for today. They did not comp any hotels, nothing. And it was Delta, which I was surprised. I paid more to go through Delta, but since it was a natural disaster that's causing it and not their fault, they didn't have to comp rooms or anything. So I ended up taking an Uber to a motel, sleeping there for the night. The first 2 flights got canceled in the morning, but then I was finally able to get a flight out. I get home to almost losing my house. So the water went the entire way up to the doors, which was the highest it has ever made it. So it was definitely a scary moment to come back to, going from, you know, the craziest 2 weeks of my life to coming home to almost losing my home. Was scary, but thankfully it did not happen. But yeah, I just feel so blessed to be able to take this trip, and to have such a good friend to be able to do that with, and to really be able to get me out of my shell, to have a good time. And it really experienced, we experienced everything. We were logging 50,000 steps a day, just walking everywhere, checking out every possible thing we did. From the moment we landed, we only had essentially 36 hours before we had to catch another flight or get a little bit of sleep. We did not stop. We went full force. Yeah, I know I rambled on for a little while there. I hope that sharing my experience and some of our downfalls and everything else gets you to get out there, go travel. I'll look for in the comments if you guys have any questions about some of the places, or I'd love to hear some of your stories that you had. And stay tuned for the Asia trip video, because it's going to get wild.